Okay.
Well, hello, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and I am not in my living room.
Joy, joy, joy.
Yes, I mean, okay, so it doesn't say joy on
location.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
on location, and with my gal pals, Lisa Flamina Rush and BZ Rieger. And yes, so I did say this morning in a video that I put out that we were going to be up here and that we were going to try to get to record with you today, BZ, if we could. And so, ta-da! Here we are.
Yep. So if Sheila freezes, she's just looking at a tree.
Well, you know, I told you I have one of those dinosaur ones, so we'll be lucky if it doesn't drain completely out of battery, even though I have it plugged in. So
that has happened to mine. So.
Oh yeah, that time you went sideways. I remember. So we were talking before we hit record, as we do, you know. And well, because I was saying that, and I said it this morning too in the video where I was, you know, sharing Lee Transcendence Brown's article, and I happened to notice that a lot of different astrologers are picking up on the intensity of the energetics of this weekend. You know, the lunar eclipse, full moon eclipse, which is because, you know, it's that tube of toothpaste all over the place kind of energetic that they're picking up, and I get that. You'll have to pardon us. Sometimes we have the big rigs coming in, because this is an RV park that is so cool too. And so, you know, they were using words like rage and anger and, you know, keep your head and stay grounded, you know, things like this. And I realize, you know, Mars is retrograde as well. There are, you know, all those planets. There's, I think, 6, and now Mercury too, all retrograde. And so I know that they're gonna, you know, they are kind of picking up that collective energy because, you know, that's helping to whip all of that up. I feel like, you know, it's all a metaphor, right? So, but I was remarking to you, BC, that has not at all been mine and Lisa's experience today, or yesterday even, for that matter. And you were saying that, you know, it depends on your frequency, your vibrational frequency neighborhood, and what you're, you know, kind of working on or through. And
yeah, well, it depends how much, you know, what
true.
you've squished out of your tube of toothpaste already. and what you're working on. And a lot of people have fear coming up right now. And that fear, it presents as rage, and it presents as anger. It presents as really over-the-top frustration where they're just shaking. They're so frustrated, which isn't quite rage. It's that, right, you know. And one of the reasons for that is, I'm trying to think of some good ways to describe this in linear ways. So, okay, that's kind of odd, but it's a color metaphor. So if you have a glass of water and you put some coloring in it, and it's got kind of you put orange in, and then let's say you put, you know, maybe a purple or a red in there. So now it's kind of a muddy kind of a brown, right? And you put it into a spray bottle, you start spraying, you can actually see that the droplets are not clear water. They've got the color of what was in there. So if you think of those colors in there as the energy of frustration at, you know, a job, frustration at what's going on in your own personal life, whether it's relationships or stuff within you, or you just feel really uncomfortable in your skin and you have no idea why. Because, and this is a lot of people who are presenting rage, because they've actually looked at the psychographics and the demographics of them. They're fairly stable from a financial, at least they like to present a fairly stable financial picture. So maybe nice clothes, maybe nice car, maybe the right kind of job and good circle of friends. They've got a smartphone, and they have some disposable income. So okay, and so if you look at those things I just described, and kind of you could assign to them emotions to them, and they thought they had it all, that they were the cool cats and the popular kids, and kind of all the euphemisms that we use, right? And things are just not going the way they thought they would or should or whatever, that's part of the fear. Well, there's a lot of parts of fear, but part of the fear is they don't understand why. So there's a very large group that that can point to Trump, because it's all his fault. It's just this stupid white guy with, apparently he's got smaller hands commensurate with his height or whatever, I don't know. And he's done it all wrong, and if he wasn't there, my life wouldn't be going this way. Okay, well that's, you put something else, because all of that is to avoid doing any work, and you're all being nudged from within inside to do the work. I had a number of people get in touch with me today and said, who have been snoozing right along, nice and steadily. They're nice people, but been snoozing steadily right along, and they in different ways got in touch and connected and said, I know different alternative things about all sorts of stuff, and you got anything that I could do for this or do for that? This was a common thread through. There was 8 of them, and I said, yeah, probably do, but it won't come out of a bottle. So anyways, in each one I had various different conversations with them for where they were ready and what they're and the reason I bring that up is that people, an awful lot of people, well, the astrologers are talking about grounding. Well, this would be a way, from my perspective, more apt. Is grounding's good, but for an awful lot of people, especially you, Sheila, you mentioned you and Lisa are not having that feeling, right? If that's the case, then compassion, then just spread and ooze and emit and transmit, and think of just these waves of ribbons. In fact, you might even walk around the campground, or if you have a car, not aside from just the rig, drive through different areas of the campground and outside and the road, the service roads and stuff like that, and just spend half an hour where you're sending out ribbons and trails of rainbow compassion through there. And everybody can do that in different ways, and you don't have to actually drive through, but it's fun actually when you do it, and that's you're envisioning all sorts of really cool and fun multidimensional and quantum experiences will actually come with you in the vehicle, and it's like this magical sleigh, that you're surfing on and creating us. Anyways, that's part of what's going on for people, is that there is the fear and there's the frustration, and then you have an awful lot of people. So because kind of one example was the sides of the Trump, and then there's the sides of, well, think Q is the greatest thing since sliced bread, although they don't really understand what Q is, or the depths of and layers of what everything is, but so their forms of frustration come, well, why hasn't this stopped yet? And what's taking so long? And how come these people get to do all these things and there are no consequences from it? So again, it's very interesting and telling that in various ways, there's a lot of punitiveness that is being released. And
yeah, I don't. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, no, like when they're saying, well, it's pretty common. Not everybody says it in such stark ways, but it's a very common refrain that it's, this is time is over. Let's get them. Let's have this. Get them arrested. Get them to stop. All sorts of things.
Right.
And there, like I said, there's a punitive nature to that, which again is on the fear side. I mean, there really is only fear and love. There simply is only fear and love, and they they will, in a polarized linear aspect, they will present as absolute fear and absolute love, but they'll also present as different gradations or shading or vibrational frequency ranges that are coming being expressed by people.
Yeah, you said that you said something about there's no more punitive, or that I don't know that you said there's no more, but you said something about punitive, and I'm reminded somewhat of what Lisa and I talked about on the way home in the purported trial, the purported hearings and all of that, everything. I really have begun to think that some of these folks involved with some of this truly haven't a clue of what they've been involved in. And when you think of what kind of cognitive dissonance awaits for that, specifically in that kind of an arena where at some point, I mean, I will say I've had lots of epiphanies in my life, and when an epiphany comes, the realization of some of the ramifications in regards to something when it first hits you can be devastating. And I think to things like that, and I have this distinct feeling, a lot of people might not think this, but I have this, because humans are not like that. There might be some that are, so far gone or whatever, but I think in general, most folks, when some of what they've been involved in unknowingly or, on one level, again, but that's where my compassion stems from for that sort of thing. Because there's also lots of tubes of toothpaste going off too that are the same kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a toothpaste, I can't remember the name of it right now, that has like 3 different colored stripes or something in it. So you can have multiple focuses and just get a super wide tube of toothpaste that,
yeah, that was called AIM.
Oh, was it?
And I think that's kind of actually funny now you think about it like that.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. There is that cognitive dissonance. There is, and there will be, and there'll be more of it. And there are gobsmacking moments where, and that's what actually pushes. See, they're happening right now, but they're not happening. My sense on an awful lot of people that they're happening right this moment, but they're not happening on a cognizing level or way. And by that I mean since we're not isolated from ourselves, we are connected, even though some people once thought that was not the case. And there are conversations going on all the time with our soul, okay? So we're not clueless, even though our linear aspect may go, oh, I don't know, right? Or you're nuts, that's just freaky shit, right? Okay. And because of that, we have the knowing. That doesn't mean we may be listening to it, but it doesn't matter. It's on all levels of our bodies, mental, emotional, physical, electromagnetic, energetic, all of that. It's all there, and it's all tangible, and it's all real. So if all that is in you, that knowing, that those memories, those ramifications, all of that was in you, but you're not listening to it. You're not tuning in. You're so hooked into the out there and looking for someone else to guide your thought process, your vitriolic process. Well, hey, there's people all over the place. There's a banner here, that's vitriol, or you can do this one or this one or this one. I mean, you don't have to look very far to pick a different one to do. But that's not thinking for oneself. So when I look at all this and have direct experiences of it, whether it's tangible, some people write in person that come right up to me, today, or on the phone or email, different ways, I have compassion, because as those moments come, this is what they're all experiencing, but they label it as whatever they're labeling it. I'm feeling, I've got really bad headaches, and I'm feeling kind of dizzy, and I don't know, I've got a colds all the time, So because, again, that's, it's a labeling, there's something wrong with me, or I'm having, I'm feeling really kind of nervous all the time and nervy, and that's not like me, or, I have trouble with my eyesight, and so I can't drive recently, or, but it's across the board. It's just different for different people. And when I see that, I actually see it, and to me, it's very, I have the feeling with much compassion, but it's wonderful, because now they can't escape it, because now they can't keep pulling their head over wool over their eyes, because now their whole body, their whole being, their whole physicality, all of the energies where they are, and all of the external out there structures, all that kind of stuff, is screaming at them that you've got to listen. You've got to pay attention. And the one that you're listening to, the one that you're paying attention to, the one that you're focusing on is not out there. It's not out there. It's not the one with the best meme or the most, followers on Twitter, or this on Facebook or YouTube, or whatever. The biggest megaphone, at the biggest rally, lighting the most stuff on fire. And if you think about it, for an awful lot of beings, a common characteristic for a lot of beings who are not in tune and tapped in with themselves and not awake and aware, is that they don't trust themselves. They sure as hell don't love themselves, not in a really true sense at all. And they don't know how to think anymore. And they absolutely, positively don't know how to feel. So think for a moment, if you were kind of, I'll just put this in a playing mode of like a mad scientist and a kooky experiment. And you're wanting to see how you can get these compounds, these emotions, these frequencies, these structures out of this organic being. Well, anything that's not a energetic frequency or electromagnetic chemical match to this frequency recipe that you have over here, which is called universal love. So how do you get them out of this beaker full of, or this organic beaker? How do you get it out? Well, you can do different things, but if you're frustrated, or you're frightened, or you're furious, or you are so vitriolic, and you're spouting and spewing like a volcano, right? I mean, look what Gaia's doing. So that's part of how it comes up, because it releases all of it. And in the releasing of it, it's separating those chemical compounds, those electromagnetic energetic compounds from each other. And all that's left will be the ones that are expansive, that have a higher frequency, vibrational bandwidth range. So yeah, in many instances, it's not pretty.
So for some reason, it just now really clicked, I think, in me that, I mean, because we've talked about it before, that it could be you could have it easy or you could have it hard. That's the way my mom used to say, we could do this the easy way or we could do this the hard way. Your choice, but we are doing it. And so it just really hit me that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. We get to choose. So I have a lot of compassion for those that are choosing that route too. And if that's the way they choose, they got a right to go that
Well,
way.
they can change their moment.
I rather like the route we chose.
Yeah.
True.
So one of the people I was, having a conversation with today, I said, you're not cornering the market on, the symptoms that you're describing. And there really isn't anything wrong with you. And yeah, you feel terrible and you're having these reactions, but it's your body's trying to get your attention, and you need to wake up. In fact, it's screaming at you. You need to wake up. And I said, my guess is over the last couple of days, you've seen an increase in today in particular. And I kind of thought of what time it was. And I said, let's see. Yeah, okay, probably saw a big jump, maybe around, at the time this was happening about 2 hours ago, which meant it was about an hour or so before the eclipse had started. And they said, yeah, So I said, this is happening, and what's happening is that I said, look at it this way. Your body is 80% water at least, right? So it's an electromagnetic frequency, and there are all these other frequencies that are all around us that are shifting and changing, and they're actually going to, I talked a bit about the radio station metaphor and that kind of stuff. Because remember, this is someone that if I started, not couching my language really carefully, would go, what? So just by saying that and kind of putting it away, because they know how to do some electrical work and they know how to do some other things, so they're kind of put in that, they could go, oh yeah, okay. They could see how that worked, and they could kind of put their body that way. And so that makes it more approachable. The other thing is that when you're not feeling well and you've got different things going on, there's a frighteningness to that. It could be little, it could be giant. And so you lash out. But one of the biggest things that's compounding all of this is what people are seeing and experiencing is, like I said, their multidimensionality in real time, and the three worlds split in real time. So those are, the second one, the three worlds split is metaphoric, although it's literal in essence too, because it's talking about a frequency range.
Yeah.
And so the things that they could deny before, the things that they could say, oh, that tinfoil hat nut job, or that this or that, but everybody that I'm around, all my friends around, are like this. And it's easy because I'm in a clique and we don't all think, we just react, and it's easy, and we kind of flow, and I'm so used to that habit. But then you see things, and again, so walk away is an example of a great metaphor of the world splits. Because hang on, these are my peeps, right? And I'm not talking about from the Democratic Party's perspective. I'm talking about all the people that got together and, talking about that Trump rat bastard and this, that, and the other thing, right? And all those damn conservatives and, all the other euphemisms that people come up with to separate, right? To separate.
Right.
Keep separating. And so there's a world split right there because wait a minute. So it doesn't make, so every breath, everything they look at, every time they breathe, every time they open their mouth, every time they open their ears, everything is showing. It's like the movie projector keeps showing you the different video clips of that things are not the way you thought they were. Although you're so entrenched in the way you thought they were that it's hard to notice that. But at the same time, it's unmistakable the noticing, because someone who's sitting right next to you, who, was like peanut butter and jelly with you on this whole stuff, right, is all of a sudden going, nah, that's nuts, and going over here. And it's so yeah, it's a real brain emotional thing. And I forgot to mention this before, but people have really forgotten how to feel.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
Well,
and they're feeling now. And so since all this feeling and kind of catching up to the feeling is coming out, because a lot of that feeling they're misreading some of it, and so they read it as a heightened fear, which pisses them off, because if you're mad, then you're not going to be as afraid because you could be tough, right? That kind of stuff. And so they're feeling it.
Well, that is one of the things that is most common. I would bet money is that people are feeling, but I was going to say we, but I'll just speak for myself. And I know I'm not alone in this. I was told day in and day out that I was too emotional. You got to get them emotions under control. You cannot walk around feeling like that all the time. And, what I didn't realize then that I do now is that it was making them feel uncomfortable. Number one, it's one of those programming and conditioning things, number two. And so I'm sure that a lot of folks had something like that, or very similar. And so be gentle on yourself too, as you allow yourself to explore your feelings, because that's what this is all about in my book. That's part of it, is the experiencing of these emotions. That's the whole idea of being, out here experiencing stuff and sending it back, to the source, the one. From our own little perceptions, emotions are a huge part of that. And they play hugely, in my view, to our creative process. Once we really get the handle on that, That's what I feel like.
Lisa, did
This
you
is
want
so
to
difficult for me because I can't. Yeah, I know, because I can't hardly see either one of you. I can see Lisa from where I'm sitting, but it's hard for me to tell, so I'll be quiet now.
Did you want to jump in, Lisa?
Well, I love this whole conversation, all of it. You guys are covering it from every angle quite deliciously. There was something, however, that I did want to say, and it has left me now. So if we continue and resume, it'll come back, and I'll
Okay.
pick up.
One thing I wanted to it's come around a couple times to, it's not going off on this. I think it's actually opens something up that will.
Okay.
So a lot of people, I've seen a whole lot of comments on a lot of different places about. Could be about Tennessee. It could be about the whole Capitol Hill and the what is it, the Mueller probe, and it could so pick one, right? Okay. But what's common is I think what's common is people's trajectories of their questions are. So, for example, a lot of it is being accountable, or when is there going to have some consequences, right?
Okay. Yes.
And oftentimes they're looking at the justice system because that's how we think consequences show up, right? And right. Okay, so I just kind of set the table with that for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And now, and people are at different places in their energy frequencies and how they've actually integrated things and in what things they know, and the knowing from a linear perspective. I know that, the known history is, just this much, and there's a lot of stuff that's been happening for a long time, and it's documented. So, or the money system, the way banks work, or the justice system. So there people are at all different places.
Right.
So I want to take for a moment. Let's play that. You know what's going on. You are creating this movie, and it's on a limited budget, and the storyline is that there was something that you call the justice system, and something that you call banking, and something that you call kind of the civilization and the rules of civilization. Okay. And you're wanting to wrap up this. It's an action thriller, a love affair. It's got everything. It's really cool, and fun dogs in there too. And you're wanting to bring it up to the big finish, to the big close, right? Where people are understanding and seeing what's going on. They can clearly see, again, from a linear aspect, who we think are the ones that are bringing it to light, or kind of the cavalry coming in and all that kind of stuff. And that's just kind of a setup, and that will maybe hopefully help people at different places where they are, what they're actually, how deep they've actually gone, and how much. And it's not so much from a knowing, thinking, reading, putting the dots together. It's from a feeling, a sensing, a really understanding, really being there, that you're an internal being, that you're a creator being, that you don't just live forever, but that you actually create things forever. In fact, every nanosecond. That all of these things around us are not what we think they are. And again, and this is purely linear, but from a linear perspective, okay, things happen, and there's this war going on. And so from a linear perspective, that's actually correct. It's not just on this planet. and you might describe it more of as the spiritual war. Okay. So that's kind of a rough setup for this. So now think for a moment. So you got your drawing board, you got all of your storyboarding, you got cameramen, you got lighting, you got costumes, you got everything. What are some creative ways and vehicles that you would use to reveal this to not only every member of the cast, because only the members of the cast, they only know what their role in their play is, maybe with their co-star in that little venue of what's going on. They don't know the whole script. They've not read they've only read their parts. They don't know anything else. And then you have the whole crew and the people who bring in the lunch and the producers and all that. They don't know that either. They only know parts of it. And then you have your whole audience, and they're more of a wild card because some of them know a lot, some of them know a little, some of them know nothing, right? Okay. So, but one thing that is, okay, I was going to say that's evident, but maybe it's not evident, and I think that's one of the reasons that people are having a problem. So we're kind of put it up on a board that this is a bulletin on the board that now in this game that you're playing that those in this polarized battle, that those are the we'll say the dark shirts, Team Dark, right? That are the heavy handers, they want to win at all costs. Here's a goose. They want to win at all costs. The idea of losing is just an anathema to them. Okay, so then I put that there to remember when one's thinking of scripting things. Well, it's the rules, it's clear. Take Tennessee, for example, everything's been presented, the judge and that whole system lost, and just, make nice and let them go. Or with the Capitol Hill hearings, well, clearly it's obvious that people are so bad at lying that you can't even make up the things fast enough to lie faster to kind of have enough misdirection going on, right?
Right.
So all that's a long way to saying one of the kind of the footnotes of this before we get into the playing is that again, to use a very linear terminology, the bad dudes in this movie that we're creating, right? They don't want to acquiesce. They don't want to lay down their sword. They don't want to give up. In fact, if they blow themselves up in a fiery ball of hell and take as many people with them as they can while they're doing it, hey, that's fun, because they can get, because for that moment they can feed on that fear. For that moment they can feed on all that. Okay, so if you understand it, to just say that, well, maybe the more middle of the road, the more rational, the more, of course it's none of this rational, but anyways, the more, well, if you're playing a sport and then the game's over, and you say, okay, great, and everybody hugs, and yes, and that it will be the case because of the truth of who we are. But in the final moments that seem like they're after the final moments, that's not going to happen. And one of the reasons that it's not going to happen is because in thinking that and in scripting that, remember, this is just a movie that we're sitting around and we're storyboarding, making a movie. Because if you did that, you've left out 90% of your audience. Because you haven't pulled into, you haven't done the character development for each of the different actors and places and the vignettes and the whole storyline. Why do you think that a book or a movie and stuff gives you some background about the person, kind of gets you some flavor, where they came from, their town or the town itself that the place is set in? Why do you think that and I can't think of the name of this series, but I was at that place in Washington earlier this year. You know, that people go through so much detail and so much, a lot of effort to get just the right scene set, just the right place to have location shots, because all of that sets the tone. All of that shows the metaphor. All of that colors all of that. Why? Because all of that pulls in the audience, sets it so that they can fully immerse themselves and can now really see, feel, hear, experience all of what's going on in this, so that even if they don't understand something, or they don't catch a nuance, or they missed that, you know, that hand direction, or some of the dialogue was a little over their head, right? But when they have because they're immersed in the totality of it, they can then more easily connect the dots. They can more easily look back and go, hey, that's a puzzle of, you know, this incredible planet with all these colorful things on it. But if you hadn't gone through all the detail of that, if you hadn't done that character development, that scene set development, you know, all of that, you wouldn't have pulled in your audience. Okay, so step back again for a moment. So in this that we're playing with, one of the things that's so integral to pull in is not to tell the bad guys, okay, well, you know, we beat you at your own game using your own rules, because that's one of the things that's going on right now in many stages of, you know, theaters of engagement, we'll say, using the war metaphor. But what's the most important is to engage the audience so that they can take away. Have you ever been in a group of friends and you went to see a movie and you're just chatting about it afterwards, and people pull different things from it? It was something that inspired them or lifted them up, or they didn't like, or, you know, was a turning point, you know, so that's what's going on right now. And the reason that that's so important is because that lets as many beings as possible come to a more cognizing point where they can more, with actual, this is not right, but it's the best I have, linear awareness, start to see and get a glimpse of, to make the choices.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the integration. So in other words, all this is happening at once, so it's integration. You can't just have a news headline, well, because most of the newspapers are heavily embattled in one side of the war, but you can't just have a news headline that says, you know, you've been lied to all your life, you don't live and then die, you're actually a creator being, and you can create stuff, and all this other stuff you saw out there was wrong. And, oh, by the way, from the little linear, little you, smallness person, you don't owe all that debt, and you don't have to work all your life, and you don't have to have people who were yourself dying of cancer, because, hey, you know, we actually know how to fix all of that. So that would, just like when some people are thinking about the energies in there and who understand the energy, and they're thinking, wow, I'm getting slammed by these energies. Okay, well, this little thing that I did, you just slammed the linear brain of that person and it exploded. Talk about cognitive dissonance. Talk about overwhelm, because what'll happen is it will completely shut down, and they simply are not capable of seeing any of it. And so they can't hope to make any choice from a linear perspective. So anyways, that was a bit of a ramble to try to, I thought I could paint something, but I'm not sure I painted it very well.
No, I think you did an excellent job of that. So are you saying, however, PC, that's what we need to do is paint that picture?
But what do you feel?
I don't know. I'm skittish about that, to be honest with you, because I feel like I've participated in some real damage of people. By not knowing what someone's ready for. And I thought I did. I mean, I thought, well, everybody's ready for the truth. I have traumatized people by sharing the truth. So I have to figure out how to do that.
Well, okay, so there's a lot of quote unquote truths out there, right?
Yeah.
Well, you could just transmit what's true instead of a truth.
Okay.
So what's one thing that's true? Well, probably the only thing that's true. Because it's true for all.
Love is the only thing that's real.
There you go. And think about how well trained and well indoctrinated we are, because I just heard so many people, and a whole cadre of them were purportedly wide awake, say, well, that's not going to do anything. Yeah, because love is just silly stuff. Love is just frou-frou stuff. Love is just, you got to get in there and show them the facts. You got to get in there and sell the stuff. You got to get in it. Okay, well, if that's what you move to do, then okay. It's always good to do what you move to do. Absolutely, always. If your heart is aligned and you're moved to do that, you can never go wrong.
Agreed. I used to. That's what I used to want to do so bad was, and I launched like Lisa. I'm pretty sure I traumatized a lot of people. Because when I started learning things, I was like, oh my God, this is so, and I just thought everybody would want to know, first of all.
Yes. Yeah.
And it just didn't turn out to be like that. And I'm at the point for myself now that the best I can offer is become a puzzle piece collector. Look into the things that you feel drawn to and keep an open mind about yourself and everything else. And that's really good advice for anything and anyone at any time. But I just messed it up so many times, for one thing. And secondly, it's like Lisa said, you don't know what folks are ready for. Sometimes they say they're ready to hear a thing and they're not. And it's really, I found it really hard to try to know what to say and when to stop. The glazing over eye would be the place, but once I'm on a roll, that was a bit hard to, master. Again, bull China shop me. But so now I just I think that's why I like having this channel so much. I can say whatever I like to say, and nobody's got a gun to their head, and I'm not banging somebody over the head to listen. If you're drawn to it, you'll hear it. If you want to ask questions, you'll ask.
Right.
And what I've been practicing, I don't get the chance to do it very often, but I do have a local friend that I get to see every now and then, like every 2 weeks or so, usually is what it's ended up being for the last little bit. And, okay, so I have had a viewer ask a question, and this seems like a good time to actually answer that question, because I'm going to talk about transmitting how I feel about things, right? I know I'm a creator being. So when I'm out with this friend of mine, I I now can, I couldn't do this before, or I wasn't paying enough attention. I can feel the energetic envelope that we open up whenever we have our conversation. And now I'm very adept at opening one on my own with someone who is not, you know, but she can feel it too. So she joins me in that envelope. She doesn't quite understand it. You know, that's the same friend that I said in a previous video where we were speaking and we were talking about the energetic envelope and the fact that I knew she could feel it. And the waitress walked up and said, I don't know what y'all are talking about, but it just feels so good over here at this table, right? So that is what transmitting actually is. Sherry, you had asked that question in one of the comments of one of our other videos. And I'm going to do a different video about that. But yes, that's what I've been doing. I don't get, like I said, I don't get the chance to do that one-on-one. But I do know that when Lisa and I go places, like on our way here today, we stopped. We had to stop and do a little grocery shopping. And I can feel that we transmit as we're going through the store. And I know, so, I mean, just carrying that energetic of knowing who we are and enjoying every moment of it and not feeling rushed when we're doing things. Because, like, I don't know. It's almost as though lately we've got a handle on time even. Wouldn't you say, Lisa? I don't know.
Yes, most definitely. There's a fluidity to things now. And I think it's in reference to what you were speaking on, holding that knowledge right up front that you're creating your moment and really being with that. Because you experience everything on a completely different level from that vantage point. But I wanted to say something else. I thought of our conversation this morning, Sheila, about how for me, I feel like the plan is being written by us, and that the shirt, Lisa, gets the information when she's ready and she needs it, and it's just an agreement that we have. It's just a flow, how I flow with the rest of me. So that my goal then is to always just be aligned with the plan. I already know I've written the plan, and all I have to do is show up and align with the plan at every moment. So I'm approaching every moment with, and am I in alignment? And if I am, then I'm working the plan, and I don't have to worry about anything because I'll know what I need to know and when I need to know it and when to act and in what fashion to act. So that feels really exciting to me, that it's really just that simple, that my only job is to mind my alignment. So I'm making that really my full-time job so that I'll know what I need to say and when I need to say it, to whom and to what, in what fashion, and
Yeah, and as you play with that, you'll get where there's not a separation. Like, person who's leading the show will tell me what I need to. Hey, Lisa, okay, turn right and say how's it going. Because that is your core. So to go back, we were talking about what's true, and that's love. So you could look at to help you see what's true, what's not true. You're not small. So there's a trusting, there's a loving yourself. There's, someone says, well, I know I'm a creator being. Okay, great. So when you're a creator being, you're just you're happy, you're not worried, you're expansive, you're playful, you see wonder in everything, you see multidimensional experiences. You can call butterflies to, you can do all these kinds of things. You can go to the grocery store and have a connection that's a really poignant, genuine connection with someone else in the store, someone who's clerking the store, whatever it is. Does it have to be, 500 words exchange? Yes, it could be. No, it doesn't have to be. There's a whole lots of ways. It's you showing up. It's you standing for you. And when you're standing for you, you actually hold that space for any that comes in contact with you. And you have a very large field, so they don't have to be standing right next to you to do it. To allow themselves to hold that space as well. Now, here's a programming note, so I'll pause for a minute. Depending on where the other person is with what they've been going on, and this wraps us back around to what we started talking at the beginning, that may not come across as an all kumbaya, fuzzy, let's do a jig and all dance kind of a thing.
Yes, ma'am.
That does not, however, don't read that, however, as saying, oh, I did it wrong, or it failed, or they're just a curmudgeon kind of person. No, because you held the space. And in that moment, in order to meet that space, to touch the trueness of who they are, they had to get some shit out of the way. So they had to, right? And it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So if you continue to hold the space, obviously you have, velvet covered steel boundaries, but you continue to hold that space and have the exchange, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Then you're transmitting that. So that's another one of those things where that's a tasting, a sampling, like you would go, and that will stay with them. I haven't put it up yet. There's a great video of this gentleman who was wearing a MAGA hat, and it was in a grocery store, and he had this exchange. And he really does a beautiful job in engaging. Now, again, you'll see him tell the story, and that goes around with, as I was just saying, the person that he was holding the space for. I mean, there's not his words or my words, but you watch, he's holding the space. Didn't hug him and say, oh, kumbaya, right? Had some other exchange, but there was that sampling, that kind of tasting, that encountering, because here was, when the tube of toothpaste moment for that person came, there was not a combat. The other being continued to hold the space. There was not, a reciprocal tube of toothpaste moment coming back at them. There was no selling. There was no kind of competition, because, as I said a moment ago, I'm using this video as an example, but as I said in a way to play with this for people, if you know who you are, if you know what's true, and like I said, sometimes you need to know what's not, so you're not small. Well, if you're not small, then you can hold the space. If you're not small, you don't need to sell anything. If you're not small, you can be 100% squared, confident in that, and have an open heart. And so none of that affects you. It doesn't make you doubt. It doesn't make you go, huh? It does, because you're there. So look at it this way, instead of, well, how do I go wake people up? You could do it that way. How do I go out on proofing missions? So proofing, not proving, well, you're proving to your soul, but proofing missions. So like if you're doing with agility, we have different ways that we break down how we're doing an obstacle to teach the dogs, how to do it so it's done safe and so that they can have fun and, go wild and crazy and do the thing, but in a manageable way so that they're not hurting themselves. And you break it down into little pieces. And then you're proofing that. So that means that they may do it at where you're regularly having practice, but then you go outside if it's in a big arena, and then you go outside a piece of grass and you do it again, and they're not sure what to do, or they're not. So you haven't proofed it. So you've done it a different way. So what I'm talking about is where this is a great way for each being to go and do the proofing of them knowing what's true, them standing in there, them holding the space for themselves to be loved, to be not small, to be expansive, right? So instead of saying, well, I'm going to go wake people up, because everybody's got to wake up, so I'm going to go wake them up.
Yeah.
I'm going to go, and I'm going to go do some proofing for me on absolutely holding the space for me to be in that flow of what's true.
Right.
So that's kind of like a, I've got it. It's all right here. And I'm just going to go and I'm going to interact.
BG, I'm sorry. We are at the park, and Albert came out of the rig, and I'm getting him to hand me a hard lemonade, if you will.
Hi, sweetheart.
How you doing? How are ya?
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
I'm wonderful. Nothing better than a nice summer evening.
I can't hear you too well, Albert, because your voice isn't near her mic.
All right, I'm going to go.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to put my mic back in so I can be heard. Okay. There. Okay.
Yeah, as you can tell, we are having fun on the lunar eclipse, and Albert's going to hand me a peach hard lemonade.
Okay, now can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Albert, I wish you could hand one through the computer.
Yeah.
I wish we could hear you one too.
Or actually, it'd be more fun.
I have a chair for you and everything here.
Yeah, Keegan and I can jump through the computer and come sit in the park.
Yes. Oh, we would love that. Are you kidding?
We could have a campfire and hang out. The five of us could hang out.
Yes. It's coming.
I would love that.
Coming.
Yes, it is coming. I do. I feel that it's coming. I feel I've already said before, I think I'm coming out that way. I know Lisa has felt that too.
So did that flipping it around, Lisa, help you with the idea of going forth and hanging out with people?
Yes, ma'am. No, it did, because that did everything I needed. Because, I was in, that's a really, really old Jehovah's Witness trigger for me, too. Sort of the proselytizing kind of thing. And I just do much better at embodying it. And really, that's all that's required. And so I can hold it as I'm doing exactly that by minding my own creator beingness awareness. Because I am, and I hadn't thought about it in terms of that. Everything we do is creating an energetic envelope, if you will. So it's just the more mindfulness that I carry in my conscious awareness, the better off I am, certainly. But so is everyone else in my field. And just doing that is a tremendous service. And in that space, I do know what to say and when to say it. And because I'll tell you why, when I'm in that space, I feel as though I am the other. And when I can hold that, I know what they need intrinsically, as though I know what I need oh, I have to go to the bathroom. I need to excuse myself, kind of thing. It's just an innate knowing. How do I know? I don't know. I just know. And so I know what other needs when I see myself and know myself as other. But that really does take a conscious dedication to staying in that space myself at all times. Because I
Yes.
certainly can't help anyone else. If I'm not consciously in control of all of this, I'm of no help, actually.
Well,
So
yeah.
thank you.
So take that back a step, or remember a step. You know, you're a creator being. So if you're consciously aware of that, and you can hold that your own field, and then transmit that out to others, then you're creating those moments of connection. You're creating those moments of coherence. You're creating those moments, you could say, and it would be apt, of those tube of toothpaste moments for the other one. And you are holding the compassion and the love, the true in its truest form of energetic frequency for that being, that what they're doing is okay. You will hold that space.
For me, the thing that has helped me the most in holding space for anyone, including myself, actually, is really beginning to comprehend the multidimensionality of it all, and seeing that there is a whole lot less right and wrong than people think there is. I used to think, oh no, something is either true or it's not true. It can't be this is true and this is true, especially if they're completely opposite things. But I see now more than ever that is a truth, that this is true and that is true, and they can be completely opposite, and it doesn't really matter. It is what it is. And for me, I know it might take a little bit for some to wrap their minds around that. Oh my God, that actually made my life so much easier, because I can really see where just because I feel X way about something doesn't mean that I'm right and that person's wrong. We've been sold this bill of goods that there's only one truth. And that's not at all the case, I have found for myself. There is as many truths on this planet as there are beings, because of that whole perception and perspective thing. And for me, once I opened up and saw that, I don't need to prove anything to anyone or anything, because they may very well be right for them. It's not, and I don't have to be right for them too. I only am right for me. I don't know. For me, that just made my life a whole shit ton easier, I have to say.
Well, it a way to hold it that's helpful with more clarity is it's not about truths, because there's so many of them, right? It's
Right.
about the energy frequency. It's expansive or it's contracted, right?
Yes.
It is, so it would be of love or it would be in fear, expansive, contracted, right?
Right.
And because our multidimensionality is showing right now, you would see that it's, there's someone is either polarized or polarizing, service to others or service to self. right? And so that gives you, no, so you can have someone who's polarizing, we'll just say maybe they haven't gotten there yet, but who's polarizing to service to others. And their truth could be one way, and then you have another, and then, but they're all polarizing service to others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is, it's a more expanded breakdown of we're all one, and we're that singularity.
No, exactly. That's what I say. It's been a whole lot easier for me to get it that I don't know. It just made my life a whole lot easier.
And one thing that came to me, I was rehearing in my ears, Lisa saying, "Well, I don't have to, do I need to go do that? Like I need to go out and
I saw myself knocking on doors with the watchtower.
If you feel moved to do that, okay.
No, thank you.
But
she won't be doing that with me. I'll be letting her do that on her own.
So when you stand you stand for yourself and you stand in that knowing, you actually are doing that.
That's right.
But you're doing it from a multidimensional way of love, not a linear way, right? That is dualistic.
Of obligation, or
Well, not only that, but it's dualistic and it's hierarchical and separation, because in that respect, you what you got it going on, and they're just dumb, stupid, and you're going to enlighten them on how it is.
Right.
I didn't mean to be. I did not. Yeah. See, I did not mean to carry that kind of energy, but I got a feeling I did.
Yeah, me too.
Let me tell you something. Let me show you how smart I got.
No, I just, look, I'm not bossy. My ideas is just better. Okay? Look, I know a lot of really cool stuff, and you have to know it too. Not everybody would agree with me.
So you hear the knowing by being.
Yes.
And you let someone see, what the actions and the flow of your connection.
Yeah.
Because it's really, it's enticing. There is a draw to it. And it's not you that is drawing them. It's not like, oh, I got to have Lisa, and if it is, then you're not feeling the right connection, because that's external, that's hierarchical, that's very linear. What I'm talking about is when people have that sense, when they come in contact with someone who's like that, right? Mm-hmm. Who is emitting that, who holds that space for themselves and emits that.
Yes.
Right? That's very, 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 very compelling and enticing. Why? Because when they come into contact with that, when they may come into coherence with that, they come into coherence with themselves and the truth of who they are, and they've come home. And that's what the compelling feeling is. That's what they are attracted to. That's what they want to have more of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've witnessed
people
that.
Will confuse that. People get confused in their own beings about what that is.
Well, that's
I know what you're referring to.
What?
That's part of the journey.
Yeah.
And if the one that you're confused about that with someone else then says, well, yeah, you're right, because I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, then run the other way, because, they weren't actually holding the space. They were just doing a false thingy. And,
Well, I have witnessed, okay, so like we've talked about this once before, I've witnessed what that looks like when folks just are, reacting to an energetic that they don't quite comprehend. Because it happened twice with my witnessing it with Lisa. And like I said, I was talking to the person and they only had eyes for Lisa, not because she was speaking. It was what she was emitting, and they were just drawn to it. And it was, I'd never witnessed that or seen that or, felt that. It wasn't, I don't think they were confused necessarily. I don't even think they realized what they were doing, to be honest, in these beings that I witnessed this in. And then when it happened to me, I was like, because, at first I thought it was just, because Lisa emits this energetic that she just does. And then it happened that, there was something where Lisa was speaking to the person and it was as though I was speaking to them. So I've seen what you're speaking of there, BG. I didn't really comprehend all of that at first. But now I think I can, because I was starting to come into a little bit of coherence for myself. At that point, I wasn't, that was in October. That was in October when we first went over to Knoxville that happened for me. And so, yeah, I was just getting started in my real expansion at that point, because that was right before I had my first conversation with you, Susie. So I've seen what that looks like. So I know that we do emit these things, and
he's getting marshmallow sticks.
Yes. Well, yes.
Yes, there will be a fire this evening.
In a few minutes.
Yeah, because he's working on it now. I wasn't sure if you guys could see the logs being tossed behind me earlier, but I saw them out the corner of my eye. Could you see it? That's cool. All right. Awesome.
Oh, sorry.
Why are you saying sorry? I love it. Are you kidding me? This is real life, people. Get over it.
We're all
We are not. Yes. A, we're camping. And B, this is real life. This is certainly not a professionally produced anything. It's just us on our phones out in the
doing and being.
Oh, you rock, dude.
Well, why don't we close this envelope here?
Sorry.
Sounds lovely.
And I'll try not to miss the marshmallows. I don't really like marshmallows, but I like roasting marshmallows.
I gotcha.
Okay.
And then, like once every, I don't know, several years, eating a marshmallow is cool. It's that whole energetic, that whole fun of sitting around. I would love to
you have to be very patient to get it right.
Fire, roasting the marshmallows, just chatting, for hours. Absolutely, I would love to do that. That's fun. So actually, this is very well produced in the sense that this is a way to help. For a moment, we're all just sitting around, and this is what we're chatting about, and everybody's welcome to come hang out here. And if it's not their style, well, that's cool. That's what the delete key is for.
That's right. That's right. Next. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So we're going to close this one out. So we'll have all the usual stuff in all the usual places. And since it is the eclipse and everything, And, you know, in light of what we've been talking about here, you know, send questions, comments, whatever you'd like, either to my email address at ppcunite@gmail.com, or write, you know, the comments in the body and the, you know, below this video. What, you know, anything that you feel led to talk about in regards to this video would be awesome. So until next time. Mwah.
That's good.